Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. So remember last year when there was a major push behind songs that were linked to the Academy Awards and John Legend and Common rode glory to some reasonable if short-lived chart success? Yeah, 2016 served as the rebuttal of that on the Hot 100, because while the Academy Awards had some impact here, they didn't nearly have as much as last year. Muska's Writing on the Wall by Sam Smith has been generally panned by pretty much everyone except the Academy. But much like everybody else, I'm choosing to ignore Sam Smith and his god-awful performance on the Academy Awards and that song. But unfortunately, the other option is to instead focus on this week, and yikes, it's been a while since I've seen things get this bad. Strap in, folks, this week's gonna get ugly. So let's start off with our least impacted area, the least worst, the top 10. As expected, Work by Rihanna and Drake continues to ride out its number one with huge streaming and sales and big gains on airplay, but it did slip a bit on YouTube, which kind of surprised me given how consistently strong it is otherwise. It's not gonna impact the position. Love Yourself by Justin Bieber might be secure at number 2 thanks to ruling airplay and solid YouTube and streaming, but the sales just aren't there to regain the number 1 spot. Stressed Out by 21 Pilots at number 3 isn't in any position to challenge either. Airplay's been unsteady, and even though it's picked up streaming, its sales have been slipping. It's got no YouTube as a buffer. That makes it vulnerable to a challenge from My House by Flo Rida, where it rose up to number 4, and you can see why. Strong sales, stable streaming, and airplay gains that are not slowing down anytime soon. It was enough to shove back Sorry by Justin Bieber down to number 5, but that might have happened anyway, because despite dominant YouTube, it's losing streaming and airplay, and the sales are pitiful. That also gives Pillow Talk by Zayn Malik a considerable chance at number 6, because with its sales, strong streaming, and YouTube, and some real airplay traction, is definitely a contender across the board here. Then we have Me, Myself, and I by G-Eazy featuring Bebe Rexha, which has airplay, solid streaming, solid sales, but it's mostly static at this point. I don't see it getting any higher. And then we have our first new top 10 entry, and brand new to the charts this week, courtesy of an American Idol performance that went really viral. We have Piece by Piece by Kelly Clarkson at number 8. And to me, it's got all the hallmarks of a very big viral hit. Huge sales, and that's pretty much it. But when it has such a big margin there, it's gonna leapfrog other songs and then plummet next week, especially when the streaming, YouTube, and radio have not caught up to it. A track that will last in the top 10, on the other hand, is our second new arrival, 7 Years by Lucas Graham, which has risen thanks to big sales, considerable streaming, and even a bit of airplay traction that I hope continues. It's a solid song. I'd like to see it do better. And as I predicted last week, it was enough to shove back Cake by the Ocean by DNCE down to number 10, which might have some airplay presence, but is slipping hard on sales and streaming. It's not gonna last in the top 10 much longer, and thank God for that. And on that note, our losers and dropouts, and it was a bad week for Taylor Swift of all people, as both Wildest Dreams and Out of the Woods fell off the Hot 100, along with a non-starter single Dibs from Kelsey Ballerini, and the entirely forgettable I Love This Life by Low Cash. Granted, it wasn't a good week for country as a whole, as Backroad Song by Granger Smith stumbled after his album came out and made zero impact. Seriously got no requests for it, along with Break On Me by Keith Urban skidding back to 65 after some gains last week. And he wasn't the only one who lost after a gain. Something in the Way You Move by Ellie Goulding collapsed down to 53. Bit of a shame there, I like that song. Lost Boy by Ruth B lost momentum after its debut down to 86. And Let It Go by James Bay finally lost its Grammys momentum, going down to 52. Outside of that, the other two losses came for I Know What You Did Last Summer by Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello, continuing down to 61. And Get Ugly by Jason Derulo continuing not to break out at 77. Seriously, I'm surprised that Jason Derulo's singles are not doing better, because both Cheyenne and this song probably deserve better than where they landed. They're not terrible songs. And on the flip side, if we look to our gains, well, not a lot exactly deserve better here. Yes, it's not surprising that Never Forget You by Zara Larsson and MNEK picked up big to 34. This song will be huge, mark my words. And even Wild Things by Alessia Cara getting a boost up to 80, that's not objectionable. It might be a generic sort of song, but the girl has real talent as a writer and singer that I want to see honed. But beyond that, yikes, did we really need Dierks Bentley Somewhere on a Beach rising up to 68? Or Back to Sleep by Chris Brown rising up to 20, which likely picked up most thanks to the Usher and Zayn remix where both of them managed to blow him off the stage? I would hope that our returning entries would balance all those out, except we have no returning songs this week, just new ones. Okay, about time to get a shorter episode here, so let's start off with number 97, Head Over Boots by John Pardi.
I'm head over boots for you.
Now, if you followed this series for a while, and by that I mean my reviews going back to early 2014, you might remember that I covered the debut album from country artist Jon Pardi, and that unlike most of the indie country press who saw him as a bright spot in mainstream country's dim future, I didn't really care much for that album. It was clumsy, a little bit too broad in the writing and presentation, and while some people found it charming, I found the flaws in the framing to be kind of hard to ignore. In any case, he's now back with a sophomore album, and this is a lead-off single, and it's a little dispiriting to see that the clumsiness hasn't exactly gone away. Don't get me wrong, this is certainly a passable song. There's enough fiddles and steel guitars to support the groove to win me over in the instrumentation, and I like the real electric guitar solo. It's got more sizzle than I was really expecting. It sounds pretty good, but the writing is so broadly sketched and bog standard, it just does not stick with me beyond the hook. And that's frustrating because it's clear that Jon Pardi's got his heart in the right place, but for as much as he worships neo-traditional country, the stuff that he and I grew up with, he's missing the flair for detail that made George Strait and Alan Jackson distinctive and memorable in the writing. In other words, while I don't mind this song, I find myself wishing that was a lot better. Just saying. Number 95, Till It Happens to You by Lady Gaga. I've been waiting to talk about this song for months now. Hell, I'm surprised that it took being nominated for an Academy Award and a live show to get it on the charts, because I've been getting requests to discuss this song since the fall of last year. But then again, I'm not exactly surprised it took so long to get here, because this is a song about sexual assault. And since Lady Gaga herself has gone on record about her own sexual assault and clearly drew upon the mingled rage and pain to inform her performance, yeah, there's no easy way as a critic to talk about this song, period. And that's frustrating, because while the message really is powerful, the song itself, the music, doesn't really connect as strongly as I was hoping. Part of this is Lady Gaga's choice singing a much lower tone, which adds more theatricality and fury to her delivery. And while I get the artistic decision to reassert and reclaim her power, it doesn't really fit well with the lyrical sentiment, which is about how nobody can possibly relate or understand her pain until they've experienced the same. And that is very true. Such emotional trauma doesn't really translate very well, and you can make the case that many of the support messages given to her in the song are very brusque and dismissive, but the song pushes everyone else away as a consequence of its framing and direction. For as much as it is a survivor's anthem, it's directed outwards, not inwards, more to push people away, even those who are trying to give empathy. As such, while I can appreciate the power of the song, I also feel a little intentionally distant from it, respecting its quality more than outright loving it. But I can say this definitively, it should have won the Academy Award over goddamn Sam Smith and Writing on the Wall. No question there. Number 92, T-Shirt by Thomas Rhett.
Right there, your hair messed up like a Guns N' Roses video. So hot, still got it up in my head. You're moving around in the TV lane. I ain't ever seen anything like your dress, my floor, the way you wore my T-shirt.
Talking about Thomas Rhett makes my skin crawl. Okay, for those of you who don't follow country music, well, you probably still wouldn't recognize this guy. As I bring him today, Thomas Rhett is a plagiarizing, sorry excuse for a country singer who owes his career to nepotism and the fact that country radio has gotten so desperate that they'll play anything, even this. Because let me ask you this, what is country about this song? A rubbery guitar groove that seems to forget you need a bass line to make any of this work? Record scratching that would fit more in bad late 90s pop rock? Vocal effects that would have been rejected outright from that genre, and attempted a squonking bridge that completely lacks any sort of groove or momentum. And even if you can get past all of that, you still have to deal with Thomas Rhett's lazy drawl calling this girl over and basically reenacting Justin Bieber's What Do You Mean with none of the frustration that made that song compelling, and all the leering douchebaggery that inspires lyrics like, "It's so hard to unlock the door when making out." There's nothing clever or remotely redeeming about this. It's just bro country pandering minus the country. And at least when hair metal or country rock like Kid Rock made meat-headed anthems, they at least have more balls and power and energy than this. Number 79, Hello Friday by Flo Rida featuring Jason Derulo.
You just saved me when my life came crumbling down. And I know you're gonna leave me. Hello Friday, I've been waiting for you for a long time.
So, for those of you who've been following the continued career of Flo Rida, well, congratulations for having more time on your hands than I do, but what you've probably noticed is that he hasn't released a full-length album since 2012 with Wild Ones. All those big singles he's had in the past few years have been from his EP My House, released 11 months ago. But now it looks like he's finally got a big single ready to go with Jason Derulo, and wow, that hook sounds striking like the opening lines to I Took a Pill in Ibiza by Mike Posner, with the breezy tropical house vibe, except for instead of an elastic synth on the hook, we have Flo Rida. A noticeable downgrade for more reasons than one. Forget the fact that he's less melodic with the sharper trap hi-hats and that mixed used to drown out Jason Derulo and auto-tune, and makes no use of his oddball personality, completely weird choice, why bother to get him here? The lyrics here try to show Friday as the moment of relaxation, and yet on the weekdays it describes a lot of similar partying with the obvious I Love McConan reference, so what makes Friday so different for Flo Rida? And while I could thrash the second verse making the asinine reference to Limp Bizkit's Nookie of all things, the larger issue is how much Flo Rida describes how he's addicted to the party, and how you come to the stark realization that the song really isn't all that fun. But you know what, no, I'm still not over the Limp Bizkit thing. What in the nine hells are they thinking with that? Ugh. Number 59, It's You by Zayn Malik. Admit I'm surprised to see a follow-up single this quickly. Pillow Talk is still comfortably lodged in the top 10 after all. To see Zayn rolling out with another promotional single before the album's release in about 2 weeks seems a little bit rushed. But regardless of that, why release this? Yeah, the willowy falsetto sounds really good, and the piano against the sparse beat in the hook is pretty, and it's got some real swell to it, but who told him that drowned out guitar fragment sounded good on the hook, or that off-key shifting synth over the verses remotely works? It just sounds off-kilter and really uncomfortable. And the lyrical subject matter? Look, I get how this is more about a song focusing on exposing his pain after the breakup that he's plainly not over, but the writing reads as very accusatory when the delivery doesn't nearly have the intensity to match it. If anything, the song feels kind of unfinished and underwritten. And while I didn't mind Pillow Talk, this is not a good sign if the rest of the album is gonna be like this. Number 12, Work From Home by Fifth Harmony featuring Dolla Sign.
You don't gotta go to work, let my body do the work, we can work tomorrow.
And on the topic of controversial things I've said about certain acts, I'm sure that many of you remember the last time I talked about Fifth Harmony in detail when I reviewed and panned their debut record Reflection, with their big hit Worth It being the continuous headache it was throughout 2015. They're looking to follow up that success with Work From Home, the lead-off single from their sophomore album with Dolla Sign, which is an upgrade from Kid Ink, I'll say that. And wow, Fifth Harmony are just gonna keep on ripping off popular songs, aren't they? This time the obvious comparison is Work by Rihanna, especially with the hook, but at least Rihanna blended her patois with the melody and not a thuddingly staccato monotone like Fifth Harmony do for the hook. And that's not even counting the chintzy twinkle of a melody beside the bassy synth that's as flagrant of a DJ Mustard ripoff as you can find. Or the lyrics where they describe sending so many nudes as to get her guy fired from his job, but don't worry, when he gets home, he's the boss, which gets exponentially more creepy when you realize the majority of the songwriters here are dudes. And how is it even possible that Camilla's autotune is more blatant and badly layered than Dolla Sign's? To be fair, Dolla Sign's the only thing remotely tolerable on this song, as he comes across with some charisma as he asks the girl to shake her ass for him, but he's too good for this. And there's not even a tolerable pre-chorus that saved Worth It from being worse. Everyone has said these girls are the Pussycat Dolls Mark II, but at least they weren't peddling this retrograde nonsense. Next. And finally, number 8, Piece by Piece by Kelly Clarkson.
He takes care of me, he loves me, piece by piece, he restored my faith that a man can be kind and a father could stay.
And on the topic of controversial opinions, I'll admit I came down really hard on Kelly Clarkson's last album, with this song being the title track. And to be fair, I had good reasons, most of it courtesy of painfully bland production and songwriting that slipped harder than it really should. But on the other hand, the title track was one of the better songs, mostly courtesy of Kelly Clarkson's heartfelt delivery and a pretty decent group behind it, even if it did feel resoundingly colorless in how windswept and reverb saturated it was. And while I do appreciate Kelly Clarkson taking a hard stand against her father who walked out on her when she was younger and now wants a piece of her life and has been asking for money, I can't be the only one who's a little bit skeeved out to quote her chorus, it's her husband who is filling the holes you burned in me. I mean, I get the sentiment, restoring her faith in a guy that can stand up and be a good husband and a good father, but putting aside the underlying implications, the writing here could have been refined. Overall, I appreciate the powerful performance, but again, in the writing, the instrumentation, production, Kelly Clarkson's done a lot better. Just saying. So wow, this week sucked, to the point where I can't in good faith give an honorable mention out at all. I'm giving best of the week to Lady Gaga's Till It Happens to You, just even despite some of my reservations about that song, but really, it's head and shoulders in the writing above the rest in terms of content and delivery. And since I'm only giving one dishonorable mention this week, Hello Friday from Rida and Jason Derulo from being a shameless ripoff with some truly baffling lyrical choices, we've got a tie for worst of the week. TShirt by Rhett for being leering and obnoxious across the board with some god-awful non-country production, and Work From Home by Fifth Harmony and Dolla for being an even more blatant, shameless ripoff that hates good taste, modern gender norms, and you. Dear God, let's get better songs next week. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.